Okay, good morning, everyone. It's Nick Petro from the National Weather Service in Raleigh with your tropical storm Debby briefing here this 9 a.m. on Wednesday, the 7th of August. This is our seventh briefing set of slides, anyway, in this series. So, what has changed? We're talking the main change is a slightly lowering of the rainfall amounts. So, let's just jump right into what's going on here. And I do want to start off with the radar to show that we're starting to see some of these bands here rolling in off from offshore, rather, moving onshore the North Carolina coast. The center of Debby is still east of Charleston, east of Savannah, Georgia, and it's still a tropical storm strength as of 8 a.m. advisory. It was max sustained winds at 45 miles per hour. So you can see there's some light rain showers approaching the Triangle region, moving across the I-95 corridor, and some additional light rain approaching the Fayetteville area. So that's what we've got going on right now. A couple things I want to show, and I've got a million windows open, so bear with me here as we work through this. And this, never mind this 8.5, but what I've got here is 24-hour rainfall amounts. What has happened in the last 24 hours? So let me just reload it here. 24-hour rainfall amounts. Just because what you're going to see in our forecast rainfall are lower amounts, but also keep in mind, what we were talking about yesterday was a storm total amount. So it's going to take into effect what has already fallen. And we could see here that clearly the storm center is well to the south. So look at these rainfall amounts in the last 24 hours across central and coastal South Carolina. We're seeing a bunch of 6 and 7 inch amounts. There's some 8 and 9 inch amounts scattered around. So clearly, this has been a prolific rainmaker where it has dumped heavy rain already in South Carolina. Look in the Myrtle Beach area. There's 3, 4, even some 5-inch amounts. And even across coastal North Carolina, what fell in the last 24 hours, we're looking at 2, 3, some 5-inch and 3-inch amounts here. The heavy rain has been mostly confined to the coast, but there have been some 1-inch amounts across the coastal plain of North Carolina, and even back towards the I-95 corridor. About an inch of rain has already fallen in the Fayetteville region, and about an inch of rain in Johnston County, and almost an inch of rain in Wake County. Now I have filtered out the amounts so you could see the big amounts, but as I remove that filter, you can see obviously much lesser amounts back toward the Triad. So up north near the Virginia border, there's a stray erroneous, never mind that 15.73, that's clearly an error. So anyway, I just wanted to show what has been so far, what this storm has done so far. And let me switch to, let's do wind gusts since midnight. And we could see that, this storm has had the capability of producing numerous 40-mile-per-hour plus wind gusts, mainly along the coast thus far. Over land in South Carolina, where the storm was more focused yesterday, there was, and today still for that matter, since midnight, we're seeing gusts of 25 to 30. So I think that's probably what we're going to see for wind gusts through the duration of this event over central North Carolina, is probably what they saw since midnight over South Carolina, which is these 25 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts, with maybe an isolated higher amount, higher gust or two at times. Okay, so that's what's happened so far. So let's jump back to our slides here. And let's talk about, there's the 8 a.m. advisory again, just east of us, Savannah and Charleston. Max sustained winds 45 miles per hour. And the track really hasn't changed much since yesterday. Expected the center of it, expected to come back ashore over South Carolina and move up through the Carolinas through Friday. Okay? So again, no changes in terms of the primary threat from Tropical Storm Debby being prolonged heavy rain. That's going to be in subsequent river flooding, isolated tornadoes, and maybe some isolated wind gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Scatter power outages, throughout the event. And again, these are the three main hazards flooding rain, some wind, and isolated tornadoes. Again, starting later today, tomorrow, maybe into early morning Friday. By the way, this should all be wrapping up. At least the heavier rain and the gusty winds should be winding down on Friday, but the river flooding will keep going through the weekend where there is river flooding. All right, what are our biggest concerns? Well, again, I've alluded to this many different ways. Flooding rain and river flooding that comes after the flash flooding threat. Okay, so there'll still be a concern for wind and tornadoes. All right, so how much rain? This is the additional rain on top of the amounts that I showed you already. So, at the very onset of this briefing, I showed you how much has fallen in the last 24 hours. This is on top of it. So a general, we could broad brush all of central North Carolina and say 4 to 8 inches is pretty reasonable forecast for what's left to move through central North Carolina through early Friday. Okay, some spots, perhaps down by Fayetteville, south and east of that region, the southern coastal plain, the Sandhills regions, could see a few spots where there's a little more. But let's just say, in general, much of central North Carolina will see the 4 to 8 inch amounts. It'll probably be closer to 4-inch amounts up near the Virginia border, probably closer to those 8-inch amounts down near the South Carolina border and points east. But overall, don't be surprised if you get a little less than that. And don't be surprised if some spots get a little more than that. But and keep in mind, this is a little bit less than what we had been predicting, but still, a fairly wide swath of 4 to 8 inches of rain is what's expected. All right, so 4 to 8 inches of rain is I think most people realize by now will result in a flash flood threat. So these two maps indicate which areas have the highest risk for flash flooding. So clearly the higher risk colors are basically south and east of Raleigh today. So Goldsboro, Fayetteville, maybe even Wake County, but certainly down by Lumberton, Wilmington, down towards Florence, South Carolina, that general area has the greatest risk for flash flooding today. But as we move into tonight and Thursday, look how the purple, the high risk, spreads pretty much across all of central North Carolina. So if you're anywhere in central North Carolina, the Raleigh National Weather Service coverage area, you pretty much have a really good chance of somewhere there being flash flooding. And again, the difference between flood and flash flood, well, flash and flood, it just simply means it develops quickly. Generally doesn't stick around very long and goes away fairly quickly too. So we're talking, what typical areas do flash flooding? Well, typical streams and creeks, low spots, urban areas where stormwater runoff, gets backed up, that kind of stuff. So remember, anytime you encounter a flooded road, turn around, find another way. As our saying goes, turn around, don't drown. Most flash flood deaths occur in automobiles, people driving through it. So please help us get the word out to the folks that you never want to take that chance, and especially at night when it's harder to see the flash flood risks. Okay. So as I've been mentioning the last couple days, all this water's got to go somewhere, and thanks to the hydrologic cycle that we learned about in 5th grade weather, it all got to go back into the rivers. And so yeah, there'll probably be some river flooding with 4 to 8 inches more of rain coming. So the Deep and the Haw River, we've got reaching minor flood stage there. You could see that. The Cape Fear and Little Rivers, Little River at Manchester is forecast to hit major flood stage, but if the heavy rains, in order to hit major, you'd have, the Fayetteville area would have to get on the upper end of that range I talked about, the 8+ inches of rain. If that doesn't materialize, we don't think the river flooding is going to be that bad. Okay, so is what we're showing right here. Okay, so this is really dependent on how much rain. So right now we've got the Cape Fear at Lillington and at Fayetteville hitting moderate flood stage. But again, this is subject to that range of rainfall amounts I'm talking about. If it's closer to the 8 or maybe even a little more, then you're probably going to hit these river flooding values. If it's closer to the 4-inch amounts, then you're not going to get anywhere near these river flooding amounts. Okay, so again, we'll be updating this as the rain's falling and we're able to collect and get a better sense for how much it's going to be in the end. But keep in mind, these hydrographs and river forecasts crest forecasts are highly subject to change. So please keep that in mind. For the Rocky River, the Tar River, and the Black River, you can see there's some substantial impacts, again, if we get those bigger numbers of rain. The Rocky River, Norwood, rather, if I can say that properly, is a very quick reacting river. So that's why the increase is much steeper than, say, the Tar River at Tarboro. Look how long it takes for the flooding to occur, with a much slower response time. So again, every river is different. Every river reacts differently. So keep that in mind too. But again, these numbers will be a little bit high if we don't hit those 8+ inch amounts. Black River near Tomahawk, if I had to put some bet on it, I'd bet that forecast is going to come down a little bit. We do have that well up in the major flood stage, but remember, we just reduced our rainfall amounts a little bit. So I'd be willing to bet they probably won't hit 27.2 at Black River near Tomahawk. It'll probably be at least moderate, getting close to major, but we're working with the River Forecast Center to tweak these numbers. And again, as the day progresses, we'll be sending out the updated information. All right, finally, the Neuse River, of course, pretty confident we're going to see at least minor to moderate flooding. 4 to 8 inches of rain can easily produce what we're seeing here on these graphs. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, what other hazards? Wind gusts. So as these heavier bands roll through tonight and tomorrow, there might be some, 30-mile-per-hour gusts, but, it's not out of the question to see some higher gusts, 30, maybe even 40. But what areas have the best chance to see those 35 to 40s? We're talking along the I-95 corridor. Okay, so again, as I've been saying the last couple of days, it doesn't take, massive amounts of wind to blow trees down when you just, had 6 inches of rain. The ground's real soggy, so trees fall much more easily with lower wind speeds. Sometimes they fall even without any wind when there's, 6, 8 inches of rain that just fallen. So the point is don't be surprised if there's some power outages as we head through the next couple days. All right, as we've been talking about too, there's a tornado threat, the greatest risk is, and I'm sorry that today is somehow got missed here, so I'll tweak that and send these slides out again. But today's tornado threat is confined closer to the coast. On the left side of this image, the tornado threat is for tomorrow. You could see is mainly basically eastern North Carolina, and much lesser of a threat on Friday. So again, this is not unusual. Typical when tropical cyclone move across the area, there's always a risk for tropical cyclones on the right side, or tornadoes, quick spin up tornadoes on the right side. And finally, we made a few tweaks to this, but this is largely the same as if you've been following this threat level timeline here over the last couple days. You can see that the wind threat might pick up tonight and go through the daytime Friday, whereas the heavy rain, we're going to see heavier rain developing later today and especially tonight, with the heaviest rain expected on Thursday. So again, that risk for flash flooding will be the greatest tonight through Thursday. And then finally, it takes a while for those rivers to collect all that water, so that's why we have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday painted red for river flooding, because that takes a while to respond. And then finally, the tornado threat will be mostly, the greatest risk for that will be Thursday during the day and night. So keep that in mind. Let's see what else we got here. So that pretty much wraps up our our slides here, prepared slides, and again, the confidence is pretty high about this event. We've been pretty consistent from briefing to briefing. We've had to make a few tweaks, like maybe lowering the rainfall a little bit, but generally speaking, our threat is going to be a rain event, flash flooding, as early as later today, tonight, through Friday, early Friday, I should say. And by the way, this should all be exiting out of here on Friday. So look for improving weather on Friday and maybe even some sunshine by Saturday. So anyway, that's the timeline there. Although while there may be some sunshine on Saturday, keep in mind that river flooding will probably be ongoing, as that takes a while to clear out. And again, don't be surprised if there's a few power outages, down trees, right through tomorrow night into Friday morning. And again, that risk for isolated tornadoes can't be ruled out. Okay, so that is our set of prepared slides for this time, 9:30 on this Wednesday morning.